Information might be likened to food, which will nourish a body when it has been digested and enters the bloodstream. Information can lead to knowledge when digested through reasoning and mind thinking. But as long as it is only brain recording, it is of no value to creative expression. To remember and repeat through experimentation, reasoning, and assembling other brain recordings of observed effects does not constitute knowledge. It but indicates cleverness. This highly technical world of many skills is very much more the result of great cleverness in the assembling of observed effects of motion than it is with the result of knowledge. When the world begins to acquire knowledge, it will show the effects of it in human relations instead of chemical and metallurgical relations. The human race has not yet acquired sufficient knowledge to know the law which makes it possible for man to live with man, or to know the relation of woman to man. It is too concerned with the application of the many physical laws to the relation of physical matter to give thought to God's one and only law that governs spiritual relations. World desire for knowing what holds the atom together has only an economical and material basis. Such knowledge would be worth untold millions in new machines and comforts for man. That is the basis of world desire for knowledge. It has only a money value. Its spiritual value has not yet entered into human consciousness. For that very reason, God will not let man have that knowledge, and man will never find it while he seeks in the wrong direction. Actually, the answer is right before man's eyes, but he does not recognize it while his eyes have outer vision alone. When inner vision comes through inner thinking, he will then recognize it in all its simplicity. All who have arrived at the cosmic mind state know what holds the atoms together, and they do not need cyclotrons to tell them that secret of the invisible universe. Knowledge of cause can never be acquired from motion. It can be acquired only from the source of motion. Empirical knowledge is a term used as a name for the results of sensed observation. Knowledge cannot be gained through the senses, for the senses are unable to see the true picture of any effect of motion whatsoever. No effect in nature is what it seems to be. A three-dimensional objective universe is as much of an illusion as a cinema is an illusion. Truth and reality cannot be deduced from a simulation of truth and reality. This universe of motion is but a cosmic cinema, projected upon the screen of space from its light source in thinking mind. Its reality is its source, and not in the projected image. The most imaginative years of life are between the ages of 3 and 14. During those years, whatever is creative in a child should be developed and encouraged. Instead of cramming for examinations where questions are to be asked, children should be encouraged to take an hour's walk either in the woods or through a store or around the city block, then asked to write an essay on what they saw or what their thoughts were. A creative education should be based upon doing things which cause the children to think and know, rather than to remember and repeat. During school years, the main object should be to develop the creative expression by stimulating the imagination. That is helpful in awakening that spark of genius which is in everyone, for creative expression compels inner thinking. A small percentage of time should be spent in giving them the essentials for that expression, such as simple mathematics, grammar, and spelling and geography. Every other study, such as history or languages, one should get by reading during subsequent years. It would be better for the new generation if all history study could be withdrawn from the schools. It is all written upon a war basis and the glorification of the desire in pagan man to kill his fellow man. History, as written for schools, is a war-to-war inventory. Its motive is to promote hero worship of world killers. The motive upon which history should be written, if its purpose is to enlighten the human race instead of degrading it, is to teach the lessons of agony that wars have given to man. They should be lessons which demonstrate that war does not pay, as some of our crime lessons demonstrate that crime does not pay. We had a long period of crime movies which promoted and increased crime and juvenile delinquency because it glorified the criminal. Burglars, killers, and outlaws were characterized as heroes. The effect upon the world's increase in crime and youth delinquency was so noticeable that the entire motive had to be changed to act as a lesson for crime deterrent. All history study should be rewritten upon this basis. Drawing, painting, sculpture, and music should be a part of every child's education. Children always love to draw. Desire for drawing and painting develops in early childhood. It should be encouraged in every way. Likewise, the music of the great masters should not only be heard, but analyzed until thoroughly understood in comparison with the split rhythms of sensualism. The principles of educating the senses instead of unfolding the treasures of the mind in creative expression is not only very hurtful to the individual, but is hurtful to the effort of keeping the Christian spirit alive and multiplying it through the land. Every extenuation of sensual thinking lessens the desire for spiritual expression and increases all of the qualities which the human race must eliminate in order to progress toward its goal. To spend valuable years in thus stultifying and smothering that spark of divinity, which must some day be illumined into activity for every man, is a great and tragic pity. My husband, who has achieved masterliness in all of the five fine arts, besides making invaluable contributions to science, often says that the most fortunate happening of his life was being taken out of school at 9. He fully knew his destiny at 7 years of age, as practically all geniuses do. Jesus said, "Seek ye the kingdom of heaven within you." The genius has come very close to having reached that center which Jesus had himself completely found. When this stage in human unfolding has been reached by enough of the human race to dominate its transactions, one with another, wars will be impossible. Material values are the basis of all wars. The genius stage of unfolding places no value whatsoever upon material things. Greed and acquisitiveness is not in it. The sense of evil is not in it. It would be impossible and unthinkable for a Beethoven or a Sibelius to even think the inharmonies which are necessary to wage war. The only way to hold a civilization together is to bring a cosmic harmony into it through transactions based upon love. It is impossible to hold it together as a workable organization in any other way. We have now reached the point in this man-made world where hate, suspicion, and greed are sitting at conference tables to bargain with each other. The more they bargain, the greater the necessity for increased armament. Those who sit at the bargaining tables are men, the conquerors and fathers of conquerors. Women, the mothers and peacemakers, are not with their men at the conference tables. There will never be peace on earth and goodwill toward man until fatherhood and motherhood sit together as world fatherhood and motherhood to extend loving service to one another. Such unbalance is a violation of God's one inviolate law, which no earthly power can set aside and survive, as man is now so futilely trying to do. Perhaps it is that woman is the only hope of saving this civilization. Next chapter is Cosmic Consciousness. The fourth stage of human unfoldment, of sensual man to spiritual man, is the high stage of cosmic consciousness. This stage is as far ahead of the genius stage as the genius is ahead of the barbarian. It is difficult for those who have not yet reached the genius stage to comprehend that stage, but it is possible for everyone to recognize that it is existent because the works of the great cosmic geniuses are evident everywhere. Everyone knows that there really are superhuman people like Michelangelo, Brahms, or Mozart, even though they know that they themselves are not like them. Likewise, there have been about 100 great geniuses whose works are so conspicuously in evidence that there is no question that a much higher state of mentality is possible than the average mentality. The state of cosmic consciousness was first referred to in India as the Brahmic bliss. It was also referred to as nirvana, meaning the ultimate goal of mankind in which all identity is lost in the universal identity. The New Testament referred to it as being in the Spirit and as the anointing. It is also referred to as the state of ecstasy. Cosmic consciousness is so rare, however, that there have probably not been more than 15 completely illumined examples in all history. By that I mean those who have had the experience of complete severance of sensation from consciousness, followed by long periods, rather than those who had but momentary flashes and found themselves in a state of some confusion. Dr. Richard Morris Buck is the greatest authority upon cosmic consciousness. His own personal illumination lasted but a few seconds, but so completely transformed him that he devoted the rest of his life to the study of other cases, and in writing a book which is of inestimable value to those who are seeking to awaken their own spiritual awareness. The symptoms he describes will enable one to recognize those symptoms of awakening genius or cosmic consciousness, which they may have experienced but do not comprehend. Dr. Buck's list about 40 cases and erringly includes Jesus among these. Jesus is the only one who has ever reached the highest stage of divine awareness, Christ consciousness, which will be described next. Cosmic consciousness utterly transforms those who have already reached the high state of the genius into an incredibly greater stage of spiritual mind existence. Some of these cases have actually bridged the genius stage or passed through it without knowing it. When cosmic consciousness consumes one with its illumination of the soul mind, it comes very suddenly, without any warning whatsoever, and without being suspected. There are no indications of it, nor can it be induced by anyone, no matter how familiar one becomes with its reality. Full and sudden cosmic illumination is attended with a flash of cosmic light, which is invisible to everyone except the recipient of it. The New Testament describes Paul's spiritual illumination into cosmic consciousness. He became as one transformed. He was transformed because from that moment he was as different a mentality as the mentality of a full-grown man exceeds the mentality of a child. What happens is that the doors to the kingdom of heaven seem to open suddenly, and all the glory of God's light, of all knowledge and all power, become revealed. The recipient becomes transformed with knowledge of his absolute unity with God. He at once begins to think with God and know his thoughts as being his own. He suddenly becomes fully aware that the voice which he first heard millions of years ago as instinct, then as intuition, then as inspiration, is God's voice and his own as one. There is no longer any mystery about it, no vagueness, no yearning to pierce the impenetrable. He has pierced it. He has found that center of stillness which his soul is. He can now knowingly say, I and my Father are one, for he has become that one. This is what is meant by revelations. It is a knowledge which has been cosmically revealed. The explanation of the flash of light, which accompanies all cases of complete cosmic consciousness, is caused by a short circuit that severs the two centers of sensation in the two lobes of the brain from the seat of consciousness. Such a flash occurs also at the instant of death. It has been photographed many times. One distinctive feature of cosmic consciousness is that everyone who experiences it states the same things. They all experience a tremendous state of ecstasy, which is the God nature, a deep conviction of love and the oneness of God and man, and the ideal of evil and death entirely disappears into their complete knowledge of immortality and eternal life. Whatever a cosmic conscious mystic writes is fully understood by any other mystic. No matter how different the words may be, their sense is universal. Their language is alike, but it is strange to all but those of high culture or great spiritual unfolding. For better understanding of these divine ones among men, I will quote characteristic sayings of the 8 most highly illumined ones. The first known case is the writer of the Bhagavad Gita. No one knows who he was, but his immortal words have already outlived thousands of years and will endure as long as man endures. The following quotations sing their own glory in the unmistakable language of the divine mystic. And these are those words, some of them. Another sun gleams there, another moon, another light, not dusk, not dawn, nor noon, which they who once behold return no more. They have attained my rest, life's utmost boon. Fain would I see as thou thyself declarest it, sovereign Lord, the likeness of thy form wholly revealed. O thou divinest one, if this can be, if I may bear the sight, make thyself visible. Lord of all prayers, show me thy very self, eternal God. Behold, this is the universe. Look what is live and dead. I gather all in one in me. Gaze as thy lips have said, on God, eternal, very God. See me, see what thou prayest. Canst thou not, nor with human eyes ever mayest? Therefore I give thee sense divine. Have other eyes, new light, and look, this is my glory, unveiled to mortal sight. And another part of a chapter. Of many thousand mortals, one perchance striveth for truth, and of those few that strive, nay, and rise high, one only here and there knoweth me as I am, the very truth. And another, for in this world being is twofold, the divided one. The undivided one, all things that live, are the divided, that which sits apart, the undivided. Gautama, known as the Buddha, was the second known case of cosmic consciousness. He lived about 500 years before Jesus came, and his life has affected the Orient as deeply as the life of Jesus affected the Occident. He was the son of a very rich landowner and lived in great luxury at the time the supernatural light descended upon him. He left all this and his wife and son to live alone in the wilderness for a long time. He then began to teach men to seek eternal peace within themselves through much meditation, aloneness, and complete renunciation of worldly matters. Like all who are illumined, the Buddha gained all his real knowledge from within himself. He decried the kind of so-called knowledge of the schools as superficial, if not useless. This point is well illustrated in his story of a youth who returned from school with much ego after 12 years of classical studies. The boy's father said to him, Sivintu, I can't pronounce that name, I'll just say Stephen. Stephen, as you are so conceited, considering yourself so well read and so stern, my dear, have you ever asked for that instruction by which we hear that we cannot be heard, by which we perceive that which cannot be perceived, by which we know that which cannot be known? This quotation is proof that the Buddha passed through the genius stage without having known it, or if he did know it, no historian has ever understood that fact sufficiently to record it. Perhaps the essence of his experience is in the following words: that one, though never stirring, is swifter than thought. The senses never reached it, it walked before them. Though standing still, it overtakes the others who are running. The moving spirit bestows powers upon it. It stirs and it stirs not. It is far and likewise near. It is inside of all this, and it is outside of all this. And he who beholds all beings in the self, and the self in all beings, he never turns away from it. When to a man who understands the self has become all things, what sorrow, what trouble can there be in him who once beheld that unity? When the teachings of all mystics are thoroughly comprehended, there could be but one religion, for the teachings are one. There can be no fault in any religion which seeks to know God. The fault lies only in the inability of man to see God, know God, and be God. The human race must unfold in orderly stages. Comprehension will come to all men, but man himself can hasten it by deeply desiring it, and by deeply seeking within himself for it through much meditation and wordless prayer. Pausanias and Mohammed were born into the world during the 12 centuries of Dark Ages. It is more than probable that Dante also was illuminate. It is claimed that he was, but I am not sufficiently convinced of that fact to include him. Pausanias was born in AD 204 and lived 70 years. He discarded all that is called scholarship, meaning that so-called knowledge which the senses record upon human brains as memory impressions. It is important that the present generations of men should understand his exalted point of view, for the modern system of creating scholars is the superficial one of accumulating information concerning effects of motion, upon the assumption that such information is knowledge. In that sense, we have no scholars which have been school-made. We have scholars, if we have scholars, they are self-made. Pausanias used the word appearances in the sense which we use the word information. I quote him, "External objects present us only with appearances. Concerning them, therefore, we may be said to possess opinion rather than knowledge." Our question lies with the ideal reality that exists behind appearance. How does the mind perceive these ideas? Are they without us? And is the reason, like sensation, occupied with objects external to itself? What certainty would we have then? What assurance that our perception was infallible? The object perceived would be a something different from the mind perceiving it. We should have then an image instead of reality. It would be monstrous to believe for a moment that the mind was unable to perceive ideal truth exactly as it is, and that we had no certainty in real knowledge concerning the world of intelligence. It follows, therefore, that this region of truth is not to be investigated as a thing external to us, and so imperfectly known. It is within us. Here the objects we contemplate, and that which contemplates are identical. Both are thought. Consciousness, therefore, is the sole basis of certainty. The mind is its own witness. Reason sees in itself that which is above itself as its source, and again that which is below itself is still itself once more. How very different is this language to that which is familiar to our schools and scholars who applaud the brilliance of the student who can remember and repeat more events and incidents than another student. Observe also that Plotinus told man to seek truth within him, as Jesus did. Consider the knowledge of Plotinus herein expressed. He is asked, how can we know the infinite? He answers, I answer not by reason. It is the office of reason to distinguish and define. The infinite, therefore, cannot be ranked among its objects. You can only apprehend the infinite by a faculty superior to reason, by entering into a state in which you are your finite self no longer, in which the divine essence is communicated to you. This is ecstasy, cosmic consciousness. It is the liberation of your mind from its finite consciousness. Mohammed is one of the great illumined. 3 great religions grew out of the words of 3 great mystics. The religions are all different, but the words and teachings are the same. Moslemism is in practice totally different from either Christianity or Buddhism, but that is the fault of its practice, not of its principle. This could also be said about Christianity and Buddhism. Those who would compare the teachings of Muhammad, Jesus, and the Buddha would find not one whit of difference in essence. Also, if the words of all these 3 are compared with those of Francis Bacon, Shakespeare, Walt Whitman, Jacob Benman, Balza, or John Yeats, they would all be the same in essence, even though the words differ. Muhammad used the word paradise in the same sense that Jesus used the word kingdom of God, and the Buddha used the word nirvana. Muhammad said, this is the day of eternity, enter into it in peace, which parallels the words of Jesus. The kingdom of God is within you. John Yeats said, God is always in man, and very commonly the soul is aware of his presence. It is as if he slept in the soul. If he wakes up only once in a man's whole life, the experience of that moment affects the whole life. Another modern mystic who has transformed millions of lives and turned their eyes to the light is Baha, the founder of a great religious movement known as the Baha Faith, although he was not listed in Dr. Buck's classic work as an illuminate. The unfolding of physical man to spiritual man always comes through the revelation of cosmic messengers who have been illumined with higher knowledge by becoming wholly mine for even a brief period, but always enough to transform the world through their own transformation. A study of the ascent of man will reveal that each upward step has been caused by the advent of a cosmic messenger who periodically appears among men with new knowledge which has been revealed to him for that purpose. It will also reveal the fact that when any man of higher knowledge and ideas than the average of his day comes into the world, he is persecuted, ridiculed, imprisoned, tortured, and even crucified by the uncomprehending multitudes. The greater the message and the messenger, the greater the torture. These messengers who transform the world with new knowledge always meet with great personal suffering for their priceless gifts. The inventor, the pioneers in new ways and methods, the genius in the fine arts, or any man who dares to depart from traditional thinking, always meet with ridicule in various measures and forms until the value of his gift to the world is recognized. Jesus died on the cross. Leonardo died in poverty. Galileo was tortured. Copernicus was spurned and ridiculed. Bacon was forced to hide his identity in Shakespeare. Spinoza constantly feared arrest. Whitman was despised and his books banned. Mozart, Liszt, Chopin, and Schumann were hireling entertainers for the rich. Even Goodyear, in our day, suffered untold agonies for his gift of vulcanized rubber, which revolutionized transportation. The many always oppress the few. It is difficult for love and for knowledge to come into the world. Crucifixion always awaits love. Knowledge is always launched upon the sea of ignorance. That is why the journey of man is so long, so hard, and so slow. In Baha'u'llah's, it is an exemplification of this trait of human nature, for he was tortured and imprisoned in chains for years in a filthy black dungeon with thieves and murderers until he was near death. Many of his followers were imprisoned with him and executed, yet the cosmic ecstasy of an eternally happy man remained with him through his far greater sufferings than even a crucifixion. Baha'u'llah's writings and teachings are the same in essence as those of all other Illuminati. They vary only in their wording, but not in their meaning. Where Jesus used the word within, Baha'u'llah used the word insight. Both have the same meaning, however. In describing the revelation of mystics, he said, "Without works we speak, we communicate, we converse with God." No, 1 minute. Without words we speak, we communicate, we converse with God, and hear the answer. It is universal in all mystics to as frankly say they talk with God as it is for one man to say he talked with another. No greater evidence of Baha'u'llah's great understanding of the God presence in man could be found than the following extract from his teaching. It is said that Moses in the wilderness heard the voice of God. But that wilderness, that holy land, was his own heart. All of us, when we attain to a true spiritual condition, can hear the voice of God speaking to us in that wilderness. Baha'u'llah thoroughly comprehended the permanently ecstatic state of God's mind to such an extent that nothing could affect his own eternal state of happiness and the contemplation of beauty and harmony which exist in all of God's creation. Even while suffering great agony of body in prison, he refused to deviate from the principle which he taught, to the effect that nothing ill could happen to a man if he is happy. Take note of the fact that he said that while undergoing great physical suffering, he said, "Afflictions and troubles are due to the state of not being content with what God has ordained for you. If one submits himself to God, he is happy. By this he means that whatever may be your destiny while working with God, that you must submit to, for that is your glory." When asked where happiness comes from, he answered, "Because all existing things move according to my wish, therefore I do not do anything contrary to my desire, thus I have no sorrow." There is no doubt that all beings move by the will of God, and I have given up my own will, desiring the will of God. Thus my will becomes the will of God, for there is nothing of myself. All are moving by his will, yet they are moving by my will. In this case, I am very happy. The purity and friendliness and happiness of his teachings cannot be but ennoble anyone who tries to fathom their depths. The Baha'i faith which he founded is without doctrine and completely tolerant of all religions and faiths, and expresses the desire for that day of unity when there will be but one religion. In all his teaching, tolerance for things which men do and say is conspicuous. His attitude is that man does not know what he is doing when he does evil things, for he is but on his way to knowing. That is the same attitude expressed by Jesus when he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He condemned nobody, even while expressing his regret that others teach or practice anything which was contrary to God's law, as he so plainly did in admonishing St. Paul for his disapproval of marriage and for prophesying that sects would arise which would be celibate. Baha'u'llah laid this fault down to superstition and ignorance of God's law. His tolerance extended to even his prophecies about the coming of other messengers who would come with new knowledge suited to their day and age, and specifically foretold of a scientific revelation. The Baha'i faith is worldwide, and its followers give evidence of the inspiring nature of its teachings by their exemplary lives and actions. All who have reached the cosmic conscious stage have attained full God awareness. They not only know God, but they unhesitantly state their oneness with him. Jesus not only said, "I and my Father are one," but said that every man is one with him and with God when he knows that he is. All cosmic messengers have said that same thing, in essence, if not in the same words. The only difference between any man and Jesus, or the Buddha, or Shakespeare, or Paderewski is divine awareness. Nothing else. Every cosmic conscious messenger very plainly tells you that, but few believe it because few comprehend it. Long ages of outward thinking have unfitted them for comprehending it. A very few years of inward meditative thinking will give one greater God awareness than centuries of outward thinking.